79th at Halas, what it is, what it do. Since Bobby Yagam, Curtis Ennis, know that we been loyal even when we wasn't winning. A trusted source for the news.
Ladies and gentlemen, Patreon subscribers, welcome back to the first official 79th and Halas preview podcast of the season. We got a very jam-packed episode for y'all, man. One time for all our Patreon subscribers. Y'all will be getting this weekly. On Fridays, we will be dropping and we'll be breaking down the upcoming game, give y'all, pretty much the feel of what it's been like in the locker room. And we're gonna have a new segment that's called Inside the Locker Room, where you're gonna get individual interviews and also sound bites from guys we talked to in the locker room. We had a couple this week. We're only gonna play the David Montgomery interview. I had a nice little 2.5 minute interview with Demo on Wednesday that we're gonna post. And of course, I know a lot of you are looking forward to the Domonique Foxworth interview. He had a comment on his new podcast that really ruffled Bears Twitter's feathers. And thanks to y'all, we was able to talk to him. I was able to talk to him yesterday. So we put out a little clip yesterday on our Twitter of that conversation. So it was a nice little 20-minute conversation I had with Domonique Foxworth of ESPN. Check that out. That will be at the end of this podcast. This is a free edition this week. Now, this is the only time on preferences. These preview podcasts will not be free. They are for the Patreon subscribers for our $5 79th and Halas tier and for our $10 Barber's Chair All Access tier. But this week, since it's a special week with the Domonique Foxworth interview, we wanted all you guys to hear it. So this will be a free episode on the main feeds there. And for those of you who are also noticed the Cinema with the Guys this week on episode 3 of House of Dragon was free. We also did a little free episode for y'all this week to celebrate the new Apple feed we have this week, switching over to a new feed. So those podcasts will not be free next week. So just want to let y'all know right there, y'all can subscribe to the $5. If you don't want all the 79, if you don't want all the Barber's Chair Patreon content, you just want to hear 79th and Halas content like the preview pods, my post game on field videos, and any special interviews that we have coming up during the season, you can just subscribe to our $5 tier, man. So shout out to y'all. But as usual, I'm your host Scott. Follow me on Twitter at BarbChair Scott on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow 79th and Halas at 79th AND Halas on Twitter, and of course follow the Barber's Chair Network at Barber's Chair Net on Twitter and Instagram. For all our free listeners, subscribe to our patreon.com/Barber's Chair Network. Now, my brother Flows is not here today. He is recovering. He got a little cold, no COVID, so that's good. Just a little cold, man. He should be back on Sunday for our recap podcast. We break down the result of Bears Niners live from Soldier Field. So it's gonna be your boy. I'm here holding it down for y'all, man. Interesting week up at Halas Hall. This is my first preparation week up at practice, covering this team. Last year I started covering the team about, probably around week 5 is when I started covering the team last year. And I went to 0 practices last year. So, this is the first time for me. It's a good vibe. It's a good vibe around the field, around the team today. Velus Jones is listed as doubtful. The injury report came out, final injury report before the game on Sunday. Only 2 people was on the injury report. Velus Jones did not practice at all. He is doubtful. Coach Flu said it is the same hamstring that was bothering him in training camp, was why we really didn't see him so far. I know a lot of Bears fans are concerned about it early. I was concerned about it, which, I'm not too concerned about it. He missed a lot of camp, but it's early. It's an 18-game season, man. 18-week season, 17-game season. You're going to need Velus for the long run. Flus did say that, they're not concerned about it and it's getting better, but no need to push him this early. Defensive lineman Dominique Robertson, he didn't practice on Wednesday, but he did practice today and is officially listed as questionable for Sunday. My educated guess, I think he will play. Everybody else was a full-going practice. Lucas Patrick will be playing on Sunday. Now, the question is, where is he going to play? Everybody, he was taking some snaps at right guard on practice on Wednesday from the little things that we did see. Now, we weren't able to watch full practice this week. We only really did get to see warm-ups. In warm-ups on Wednesday, he was working on the right guard, and Tevin Jenkins was behind him. Now, when we asked Coach Flus today whether or not he was going to start at center, coach really didn't want to, tell us exactly what was going to happen, didn't want to reveal anything, and said, he's a former defensive coordinator, and he knows it's all about matchups, and there's no point of him giving any clues to what's going to happen. So Lucas Patrick will be playing on Sunday. It's just a matter of where. My educated guess, if I had to just guess, I think he's going to be a center. And I do think Tevin Jenkins will be a right guard. That's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong. The rest of the team, man. As you'll see in my interview with David Montgomery later on in this podcast, that he's very confident about this team, and a lot of these guys, a lot of people we've heard this week, Justin Fields, Darnell Mooney, David Montgomery, Travis Gibson today said the same thing, Jalen Johnson. I feel like this team that, even though I asked Justin were they taking the underdog role, and Justin pretty much told me no. He gave me the cliche athlete answer of, we have the same mentality every day. That's not the vibe I've gotten from the locker room this week. The vibe I've gotten is this team does feel like they're underdog. This team does feel a little bit disrespected by the national media. This team does think that they're going to surprise. A lot of people who said that, a lot of the players have said, yo, we're going to surprise. I can't wait for y'all to see on Sunday. And, that's just pretty much the vibe around the team. And as a media member and also as a Bears fan, I'm excited about that. I do think, like I've been saying, that this team, and I understand the national perception. I know Bears fans get upset, but I understand the national perception. On paper, this is not a very talented team. We're in year one of a retool. I like to call them retools. I don't like the word rebuild in the NFL because I don't believe there's such thing as rebuild in the NFL. There's so much roster overturn from year to year, and you can be last place team one year and be in the Super Bowl the next. Like, literally, just look at the Bengals. So, that's why I don't like to call them rebuild. So the Bears are in year one of a retool. So the talent, the names aren't there. But the Bears had the names last year in one of the most mediocre teams in the league. So I don't really think names matter. It's about system. It's about what these guys bring to the table. And I think these guys are going to be ready. I do have them pegged for 7 wins, but I do see a path till 9 wins. Now, just because I have a path doesn't mean that that's actually going to happen. But I do think this team can get at least 7 wins, man. I'm really interested to see what Justin Fields is going to do. I'm really interested to see what the running game is going to look like. We're going to see the first full healthy offensive line. What is that 5 going to look like? And there's just really a lot of question marks about this team. I feel like if you're in the camp of you're 100% sure that they're going to surprise people, or you're in the camp that you're 100% sure they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league, I think you're a liar. There's no way you can go off what we've seen in preseason, in camp, and say you're 100% sure. And one thing that Coach Fluke said in his press conference, which I agree with, he said, I don't listen to, preseason projections, because every year, these people, they pick who they think are going to be the best teams in the league. And you look 18 weeks later, and those teams aren't the best team in the league. Everybody's starting 0-0. So it's really just about put up a shut up time. And just really honestly, as a fan, as a media member, I'm tired of all the talk too. Let's just put the ball in play this Sunday and let's just get it going. Now, there's an 80% chance of rain. So I don't know how that's going to alter the game plan. Of course, in typical Bears fashion, the coach didn't tell us anything about, how the rain might affect their game plan. But looking into their opponent coming up, the opponent is the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this is a team who the Bears are not, what's the word I'm looking for? Not new to. They've been playing this team the last couple times in the last couple years. Most recently last year, back in October, they lost 33-22. Justin Fields, had a pretty solid game. Went 19-27, had 175 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Of course, we all know. It was actually 2 touchdowns. Yeah, it was 2 touchdowns. Yeah, 1 rushing and one passing. Of course, we all know that rushing touchdown was that big 4th and 1 play where he went around the defenders and broke it off, which was probably his best play of the year. And he also had a nice corner touchdown to one of the tight ends in that game. But that was a game where Deebo Samuel just pretty much, got whatever he wanted to get. And, I think that was a huge point of emphasis today in practice when we kept asking him about Deebo, and Jalen Johnson and Travis Gibson both said they remember. And they were saying, Deebo is a guy who, we can pretty much, he's one of the best players in the league, so you're not going to stop him down, but they need to find a way to slow him down. Now, the big difference with this 49ers team compared to last year is they will not be going up against Jimmy Garoppolo, even though he is back with the team. When we get to that in a second, Uh, this is Trey Lance's team, Mr. Trey Lance's team. He has been given the keys. He has been given the keys to the car, the keys to the kingdom for the San Francisco 49ers in his first. It's not his first career start, but really his first start as a full-time starter. He started like 2 games last year when Jimmy G was injured. Didn't have the best games. He didn't have a great camp and he didn't have a great preseason, which I believe leads to Jimmy G being back. Now we all know back in February, he pretty much said all his thank yous to the Niners media and was like, "Oh, I'm finna be up out of here. Thank you for being kind to me these last couple years." Da 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 da. Surgery happened. There was no trade market, and they brought him back. And he will be a full-time free agent, unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. I know a lot of Niners fans. A lot of Niners homies, and they like, "Oh, this is nothing. It means nothing. They just couldn't get a trade because they couldn't find a market." I call cap. There are not a lot of great quarterbacks in this league. Of course, Jimmy Garoppolo is not a great quarterback. There's not a lot of good quarterbacks in this league. And even if you're mediocre, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is mid. Now, I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I don't think he's good. He's better than Baker Mayfield. And and Baker Mayfield and Jimmy G are still better than probably half of the quarterbacks in the league. So there's a market for him. I just really feel the 49ers brass saw that Trey Lance wasn't, all guns a-blazing, which I don't know why they were expecting him to. This is a kid who has played not a lot of football. He's a project. Coming out of, actually, I don't even remember what, I think it was South Dakota State, coming out of there. And he didn't play that much football there. Didn't play that much last year. And there's going to be ups and downs. And this is something where, to me, there's going to be a little bit of drama, I believe, or at least a little bit of tension in the locker room. A lot more pressure on young Trey Lance than needs to be. Now, that doesn't mean that Trey can't, overcome this pressure and have not only just a great game on Sunday, but a great season. He can definitely do that. Even though I'm not a Trey Lance guy, I don't see it whatsoever. I'm not really a believer in project quarterbacks, obviously from who we took a couple years ago, but it's just, I just don't see it. I don't think he has the strongest arm. I think he's athletic. And I also just don't think he helps this team right away. This is a team who was a dropped interception away from making their second Super Bowl in 3 years. Not only that, they were a play away from winning the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So this is a veteran team. This is one of the oldest teams in the league where they feel like they've got a shot to compete with the Rams once again and get back to the Super Bowl. And, not if, but when Trey Lance struggled, because he's essentially a rookie again. It's his first 4 years as a starter. He's gonna mess up. Like it's not no if that he's going to mess up. And the problem here will be when he messes up. Will the locker room look to Kyle Shanahan, look to John Lynch, and be like, "Look, I'm not trying to waste my last couple of years with a rookie when I'm trying to go out here and get a ring." What's that pressure going to be like? And that's going to be something they've got to overcome. And I think that's really the biggest question mark with the Niners, because I feel like the rest of this team is ready. I feel like the defense is ready. I feel like the rest of these offensive weapons they have are ready. Now, the Bears are probably going to have 2 breaks on Sunday. I don't think Jimmy Ward is going to play on Sunday. George Kittle has been listed as questionable. So those will be 2 big losses if the Bears do not play them on Sunday, and they need to take advantage of that. But as far as this situation with Jimmy G and Trey Lance, I do think Jimmy G will play this season. I don't think he's going to get benched. Like, I think Trey Lance will have to be absolutely terrible for him to get benched. But I do think Trey Lance will probably get hurt just because of his game, and we'll see Jimmy G for a couple games. Now, the risk that they have, if he does play terrible, what's Kyle Shanahan going to do? Is he going to kill the confidence of his young future franchise quarterback, or look to his locker room who's trying to win? And I did find it interesting that when captains were announced this past week, Trey Lance was not named the captain. And there was also a comment from one of the players who said that he's a rookie to us. And that's something that stood out to me, man. So that's something that we got to look at for them. As far as on the Bears side, captains, there are 4 captains throughout the season. There will be an honorary captain each week. On Wednesday, Coach Flus announced that the 4 year-long captains will be, of course, the quarterback Justin Fields, offensive lineman Cody Whitehair, Robert Quinn, and also who's the Robert Quinn? Oh, Roquan Smith. And there was also a question to Eva Flus of, is there any question mark about, naming Roquan a captain after this offseason? He was like, no, this is a football decision. We don't get into contract disputes on the football field. He's been prepared with his teammates. He's been prepared with the coaching staff. He's prepared and he is ready. And I got to give some love to Roquan for saying like, look, we don't worry about that contract later. It's time to ball and play some football. And the honorary captain this week will be David Montgomery, and you will hear my little interview with him in a couple minutes. But I feel like this year it shouldn't be about win-loss record for the Bears. It should be about what does Justin Fields look like? What does this offense look like? If you can come out of this season and you're like sure about Justin Fields, that's a win. Now, if Justin Fields plays well, you expect that these guys will win games. So that's going to be, the number one thing here. And Justin Fields, he Darnell Mooney said that he felt disrespected about being passed up by the Niners and wants to go out there and and make a statement, make them feel bad that they passed him up in the draft. He had a pretty good game against them last year. When we asked Justin about that during a press conference this week on Wednesday, he said, I'm not really paying attention to that. That's just Moon being Moon. I don't treat any team any differently. I call cap, by the way, and that was a smart PR answer by Justin because Justin said that, oh yeah, I take it personally. That'd be the first thing you hear on Sports Center. Like you don't want that headline, heading into this week. But this particular game, the only thing that I think would intimidate me is this defensive line for the 49ers. They have a really stout defense. Nick Bosa is ridiculous. They got a great pass rush. You got Fred Warner back there, one of the best linebackers in the league. They've got a great defense, and they're definitely going to bring it to the Bears. I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. But the reason I'm confident in the Bears win is just I have zero faith in Trey Lance. I do think the Bears defense will have a good game against him. I do think like he will turn the ball over. And I think Justin will have a relatively good game this week. I'm gonna say that this will be it's gonna be a lot. I won't say it's not gonna be high scoring, but I do believe the Bears will put up at least 20 points. I'm gonna say Bears win this one 23-14. Justin Fields will have 2 touchdowns, and we'll have a couple Cairo Santos field goal makes. So that's really what I got going on this week. And I feel like these first 3 games are really crucial for the Bears. You want to get off to a good start. This is an opportunity for you to get the Niners now before they get in the groove. Next week is pretty much an automatic loss. I'm going to always pick against the Bears, against the Packers until they actually beat the Packers. And then the week after that, you're hosting the Houston Texans. So in order for you to get to that 7-8 win threshold, you really want to take care of these 2 home games in these first 3. And I think they will be prepared to do that. Just I'm trying to think what else is there to talk about, preview wise. I think it's going to be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be my first home opener as a media member and also as a fan. I've never been to a home opener, so I'm really looking forward to feeling that energy in Soldier Field on Sunday and see what that fan base is going to be like. See, it's a new era. It's a new time. To see what this Luke Getsy offense is going to be look like. We saw flashes of what it could be during camp and doing preseason, but now it's real full go time, really to see what it's going to look like. It's a massive year for Cole Kmet. This to me is a make or break year for Cole Kmet. If Cole Kmet doesn't have a breakout year this year, then you can look at that as another failed Ryan Pace pick. So he's got to be huge for this offense to be good. You're going to need David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert to be great. You're going to need this offensive line to hold up. You're going to need Cole Kmet to be a red zone threat. You're going to need, kind of this patchwork offensive, wide receiving core to make plays. We didn't see Byron Pringle at all doing preseason, but he's practiced all this week. He's going to play on Sunday. So how is he going to, fit in this offense? People forget he led the Chiefs in touchdowns last week. He was a big end zone threat for Patrick Mahomes. That's something I'm interested to see what his connection with Justin will be. And I think this is going to be another great year for Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney coming off a 1,000-yard season last year. He's going to face number 1 defensive attention. What's that going to be like? How's he going to bounce back, with the top guys guarding him? And so that's going to be something that we're going to look for. But I do think him and Justin's chemistry is amazing. I think it's really going to be good. Those guys have formed kind of a friendship, a real nice bond. And I'm excited. I'm excited for, to cover this team. I'm going to be doing at least 10, 11 games this year. Out of the 17 games, me and my brother should be doing almost pretty much all of them. There might be like, I don't think we're going to do the Patriot game, but besides that, we should be covering all these games. So it's going to be fun to be in these arenas, following the team. And as a fan, it's going to be fun to see, do we have this quarterback? So that's my final score, 23-14. Before we get into my interview with David Montgomery, let's talk about the new Arlington Stadium. So the Bears had a little town hall meeting in Arlington on Thursday night. In peak Bears fashion, they had it when the freaking NFL season opener is going on NBC. It was like 25% full, but pretty much they gave pictures of what the stuff around the stadium was going to look like. They did not show any pictures of what they think the stadium is going to look like. We did hear the people who worked on SoFi Stadium will be working on this new Bear Stadium, and it will be a dome. It won't be a retractable roof. It will be a dome. And there was a lot of Bears fans upset about that. And I say this, I don't care about one thing. I don't care about bear weather. When has bear weather ever helped the Bears? Ever? Like, I don't care about that old school 1980s Grabowski type crap. I don't care. Win the game. And then also, you got to look, this is going to be a major entertainment center for other events. They're going to host the Super Bowl. They want to host WrestleMania. They want to host the Final Four and things of that nature. And and this is basically Chicago. Like, when are you ever going to need that roof open? And most stadiums with retractable roofs don't be having them open. So I don't really care about that. Now, they did say that the plan for the entire project, not the stadium, but the entire project should take 10 years. They're not looking for funding from residents, public funding. They didn't get specifics on when the actual stadium will be done. But if I had to guess, if the whole area is going to take 10 years, you would guess if they start the building process next year, that the stadium will probably be ready in 2028, 2029 season. And then that pretty much will be when their lease is up, or they can buy out their lease or whatever it is. So that was good news on the stadium. That's a long time from now, but that's just pretty much your update on that, man. So when we come back, we're gonna have our first Inside the Locker Room segment. You will hear my interview with David Montgomery. When you're coming into a contract year, like, is there any type of extra motivation coming into this season, or are you thinking about the money, or is it really just strictly as kind of out of sight, out of mind?
My kid, and my family, that's really the main thing I'm thinking about, just being able to go out and just perform for them, and you know what I'm saying, just try to be the best version of myself.
Is there any like personal goals that you have for this season that you have in your mind?
I do, but I don't like to share them.
I get that. Now, I understand, for this team to be successful, Justin even talked about it in the presser earlier, you need to get you guys going. I feel like you're one of the most underrated backs in the league. Is there anything that you feel like, with this new offense is going to be more of a, emphasis on the running game compared to last year?
That I don't know, just because it's a new year.
Right.
But, it's going to be fun. I can't tell you feel me? Like,
right.
But just make sure you watch it.
So I feel like you guys are being very underrated coming into the season. Everybody, national media, picking you guys to finish at the bottom of the league. I asked Justin this earlier. He said that he feels the mentality be the same. But is there like an underdog mentality that you feel this team is going to embrace coming in this week?
I feel like we just going to go out and play our game. You feel me? We're going to grind. We're going to play harder, play longer. Wherever the cards fall, where they made, they're gonna fall where they're supposed to fall. But we've been preparing for this. So
right.
We're ready to rock.
Now the Niners have one of the best defenses in the league. What is something that they do that is something that you have to really adjust to quickly compared to other defenses?
I mean, they do a lot of things well. I'm saying they do a lot of stuff well, but you just got to be able to kind of just make sure you hone in on your job and handle your business. I'm saying, but they're a good, well-rounded defense.
Now, with the new coaching staff, like, what's your impression of Coach Luce and just Luke Getsy and just the short time that they've been around?
Yeah, high intensity guys, man. They want everything done right. They want you to handle your business, and they want you to hustle with everything. So it's very refreshing to have. I'm saying they're really good guys too.
Definitely, man. Once again, shout out to Demo, man. Nice interview, man. Real cool dude, man. He was friendly. It was nice to talk to him. Really interested to see how he's going to play this upcoming Sunday. And just really this whole season. It's a contract year for him. So it's really interesting to see what that is. And congrats to him and his family, with his son coming. So much love to them. Now, time for the moment you guys have all been waiting for. It is the long-awaited interview with ESPN's own Domonique Foxworth. He had a controversial statement on Thursday afternoon. or Thursday morning rather, on his new podcast where he said that Justin Fields should demand a trade. They're gonna waste their time. He's gonna waste his time there. They don't draft well. They have no cap, and this pretty much sent Bears fans over the edge. And like I said in this interview, I don't think it was that particular comment that really just got Bears fans really mad. I think it's a whole bunch of national media piling up on this team, and this fan base just pretty much got tired of it. But shout out to y'all, all our fans. Y'all bombarded Domonique Foxworth mentions, and he got up with us. He followed us on Twitter, DM'd us, and we was able to set up the interview so he could really explain what he meant by the tape. So get ready for this nice little 18, 20-minute interview with ESPN's Domonique Foxworth. Ladies and gentlemen, 79th and Halas listeners, man, we are back here on the preview podcast, man. We've got a very special guest today, man. We've had it's been an interesting day on Bears Twitter, which is like every interesting day on Bears Twitter, man. But before I get to the introduction of this man we have here, man, I'm glad to have him. We got the one and only Domonique Foxworth here. ESPN, you got your own podcast, the Domonique Foxworth Show. Been on Bomani Jones' podcast, The Right Time. By the way, I just want to say I'm a fan. As a guy, black man in this media space. You guys, Bo. I had the opportunity to have Clint Yates on my show earlier this year. Oh, yeah. Have you guys on here. It's really, really great. I love you and Bo. I love how y'all go back and forth, man. So it's an honor to have you on the show. But you had Bears Twitter in a tizzy today, man. Had a comment today about Justin Fields and the situation, and of course, Bears fans are very sensitive, very, very sensitive bunch. Just tell them,
all fans are kind of sensitive, and I mean, I guess all people are kind of sensitive because I gotta be honest, I got a little sensitive. Like, I don't care about Twitter heat, but the few times, and it happens far too often, that fans blow up on you. Yeah. Most of the time it doesn't annoy me because like they understand the point, but it feels like they missed the point here. And it was very clear that they were being critical of me for not doing my research, when at the same time they were responding to a clip from my show that didn't fully explain what I was saying. So anyway, long story short, I said that that Justin Fields should demand a trade. And so the show, my very first episode, is already creating a stir.
Yeah, nice start.
I mean, I'm not trying to be hot take guy like that says the wild thing and gets everybody excited. So, however, I don't even know who did it. Someone clipped or quoted me as saying he should demand a trade, and also that their cap was a mess. And so then I got into a big fight about whether the cap was a mess or not. And none of that really matters to me, because if you listen to the show, the theme of the first episode was kind of unintentional, but it became about institutional stability.
Right.
It was about quarterbacks are not made as much as they are ruined, in my view. And like, you look at the great quarterbacks in the league right now, you notice they all came into stable organizations and good situations. Like, just about all of them. I think Joe Burrow is like the only one that I can say did not. The rest of them came into teams that had a lot of talent and also had like some history, had a lot of talent, or had some an organization with some history of stability and good decision making. And so my point about Justin Fields was that he worked really hard for a long time to get in this spot, and he is finally here. And it just felt terribly unfair to me. And it wasn't about Justin Fields as much as it's emblematic of all players. It feels terribly unfair to have that opportunity squandered because the organization was not prepared to have you. And then it turned into me coming down on Ryan Pohl and Eberflus. Like, I actually am a big Eberflus fan. He did some creative things in Indiana, or Indianapolis, that I hadn't seen out of other defenses. So you guys should be happy to have him. And Ryan Poles, I'm rooting for him for obvious reasons, because it's not very many black men in front offices. So, like, I want him to succeed. So it's not about them. And yes, they have taken the steps to clean up the cap, but that doesn't change the fact that this organization has not been stable for a while. Like, you mismanaged the previous quarterback. You trade away draft picks. You get a new quarterback. You don't have first round picks in multiple drafts. You get a new quarterback. And we all know that not the only way, but the easiest way to win a Super Bowl in the NFL is have a good quarterback on a rookie deal.
Yep.
So, like, I don't have a problem with the team maxing out their salary cap if they got a good quarterback on a rookie deal,
right?
Maxing out your salary cap when and surrounding them with talent. But they maxed out their salary cap and they are not surrounding him with talent. So that's bad for them. That's bad for the fans. That's bad for Justin Fields. And so I guess that was more the point I was trying to make. And it was off the cuff and it was inarticulate. I do understand why saying their cap is a mess doesn't make a whole lot of sense when they're coming up on being the team with the most cap space. But their cap is a mess, so their roster is a mess because their cap was a mess.
100%. Yeah.
And so that was not the Justin Fields tangent was not a planned topic of mine. So I will give Bears trolley Twitter the benefit of saying, yes, I was inarticulate at that point. But I believe that they would agree with me if any of them actually listened to the podcast, and it's probably the best interest of the Bears also.
Yeah.
Like you are going to get to the point. I'm sorry, I'm rambling on your podcast.
No, go ahead. Go crazy.
You're going to get to the point next year where you're starting to put some good players, hopefully, around Justin Fields. Next year, the end of next year is also the time when you have to decide on the 5th-year option. You will have one real year to evaluate Justin Fields. And 1 year after the scar tissue that he's developed from playing 2 years in a bad situation. So you're going to have to make a decision at the end of next year about Justin Fields as far as the 5th-year option is concerned. I suspect they'll pick it up. And then you're assuming that they're going to build a good enough roster around him in one offseason that you're going to get a good look at him. And then you're going to be in a situation that a lot of bad organizations are in, including the one you just got out of.
Right.
You got a quarterback that you're not sure about, a roster that's set up poorly, and a salary cap that is not in a great situation. So I guess that was my point, and I was inarticulate in that. I hope that, and that's the reason why I wanted to come on your show and other shows in the region, and hopefully win back the reasonable Bears fan, but the crazy ones.
Reasonable Bears fan. That's very not a lot of them. And this was like with me. So when I read this one, this is actually like, which is funny about Twitter. And shout out to all our fans, by the way, for tweeting you to talk to us, man. So shout out to everybody who tweeted us, man. We got a nice fan base out there. But I was doing my workout this morning and I saw like from the tweet with the quote. And then when I saw the quote, my first thing was let me actually watch the video because that's something that I like to do. I'm like one of the few people who actually read articles before I go into the headline. But the thing that stood out to me, I was like, only thing that I disagree with on it was like, hey, we got hella cap next year. Like everything else, I couldn't I wouldn't say that he should demand a trade. Now, I say like the difference I have. Now, let me give you like a little background. I am one of the most insane Bears fans that you ever meet in your life. Like I have Bears flip-flops on right now. But I've had the privilege of being actually able to cover the team these last 2 seasons. So it's like once I saw like what's behind the curtain and you see how hard these guys look and you're around the players and I talked to Justin yesterday, talked to David Montgomery yesterday, and it's like I'm still a fan, but I'm like more
it changes you a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what people were telling me, though. It's going to change. I was like, oh, no, it's never going to change. It kind of changed for me, So I see both sides of the spectrum. So what I'm looking at, you're right. I feel like this team, they don't have a lot of talent, but I think from the Bears fan, this is why I feel like Bears fans were upset at your tweet. And I don't think it's specifically your tweet. I think it's like a bunch of the national media piling up at the same time. It's like every day, the Bears going to be worse than Lions. The Bears going to win 2 wins. The Bears going to win 3 wins. And I said this on my show that I just did a couple minutes ago, and I said, as bad as the Bears have been, I've seen a lot, and I mean a lot of bad football. I'm almost 34 years on this earth. But they've only won 3 or less games one time ever. Yeah. So I feel like in order for to get that level, it's probably Justin Fields gets hurt. So I understand all of those, but I feel like the fans are just they're angry right now because it's like, only we can pile on our team. And even the preseason game a couple weeks ago, they blew out the Seahawks. If you were listening to the broadcast, you would think it was the Bears who had 11 points and not the Seahawks.
I feel you on that. Don't nobody want to hear some outsider come and bang on their team. Yeah. That's not fair. I feel like we could have a discussion about the cap space, but honestly, I don't think it's all that relevant. I got drawn into that conversation on Twitter, but it doesn't make much sense. Your point about getting close to the players changes things. It makes them people to you. Yeah. And they're always people to me. And it's because I was one of those people. So, like, my point about Justin Fields, and again, if you listen to the podcast, it's the Domonique Foxworth Show. If you want to find it, if you listen to it, you'll see that it was a bit, saying that he should demand a trade was a bit hyperbolic in order to like drive home my point. But the bottom line of my point was, it feels unfair, which I think everyone can relate to feel like your boss or your company is setting you up to fail.
Yeah.
And particularly in this case, when there's a lot riding on it. And I have to imagine that the hit rate on quarterbacks is not because it's so many bad quarterbacks who play well in college and are bad in the league. The hit rate is bad because there's so many other variables that can throw you off in an organization, and those things are not aligned yet. And that's the problem. And so I guess that's more than anything what led me to say what I was saying. But if you are not one who wants to give the players that type of autonomy, you can still look at it from your selfish side as a fan and understand that you got to get your timing right. And right now, your timing is wrong. You got a young quarterback on a team that's in a rebuild mode, and you're not going to be able to find out who he is, or you're going to ruin who he is because you were not ready to receive him. So I don't know. The only thing that really got under my skin today was just the idea that I'm out here making hot takes to get some people to follow and subscribe. If you listen to the show, like, you realize that you actually would have learned something. It's smart, it's thoughtful, and it comes from a unique perspective. So I'm happy to be on shows like this so I can go through it with people like you who are reasonable.
Well, I appreciate it. That's the first time I've ever been called reasonable as a Bears fan ever.
But I just met you putting on a good show for the first 10 minutes of our relationship.
No, well, with me, I'm like I said, I'm seeing both sides of it now. Like, know, and also with the Bears, we're also explaining to people, who now I did move to Los Angeles. I get called Hollywood every damn time.
Oh, I see you.
I'm in Chicago now to do it, for a couple of weeks. But one thing about Chicago sports, we eat, live, die shit the Chicago Bears. Like, it don't, like, the Cubs are, people love the Cubs. I'm a White Sox fan. The White Sox aren't living up to expectations. We don't know when the hell Lonzo Ball's coming playing basketball again. So it's like all they have is this. Yeah. And it's like, and you bring up a good question. I always say this when we talk about national media perception. And one thing I've always noticed with the beat reporters, we see this every day. You guys, you guys talk about a lot of stuff. Even when I listen to you and Bo talk, there's a wide spectrum you got to go. I think it's unrealistic for a fan to expect them to know, or you guys know as much about the team as we do. So I feel like they're like, we turn the page on Matt Nagy. We turn the page on Ryan Pace. And it's like, the Bears still have a lot of things to prove. Yeah, the fans might have turned on, but that stink is still there. Like, I've seen a lot of bad offenses, and I've never seen anything as worse as what I saw from Matt Nagy the last 3 years. So you have to get over that. So, yeah, there is a chance that Fields could shut people up and do well with the mediocre stuff he has. But there's also a fair chance that he might not. This is the Bears. We hype up Jim McMahon. In all respect to Jim McMahon. He had the greatest running back ever and maybe the greatest defense ever, and they won that Super Bowl. We praise Jay Cutler. Like, this is the history of Bears quarterbacks. So it's like, I feel like we have this hope, and you just wanted to do well. But I feel like what I tell Bears fans is you gotta look at it from both sides, which is hard for Bears fans, and feel like once you're on Twitter, everybody piles up on you, and it's just like, oh, now I'm gonna really troll you. I'm gonna turn it up, which is what I like to do on Twitter. Like,
I was doing that a lot too, just digging at people having a good time because it's fun, and because you can't have this type of conversation on Twitter. But I mean, you said earlier on 3 wins as like the benchmark. Like that.
Well, I got them.
They might get more than 3 wins, but
I'm picking them for 7. I'm just saying, like what everybody else had. I got them for 7. I got them for 7.
I'd be impressed.
It's a very weak schedule. And obviously the Bears are gonna be looked at as a win on from other teams for sure. But if you look at these other teams, like Niners have a great defense. Don't get me wrong. I'm not really worried about. I'm not losing sleep over Trey Lance. I'm just not. And so I think this could be a game where the Bears could steal. Now, it could go left too. I feel like this team, if they have a major injury or two, my 7-game prediction goes out the window. But if they stay relatively healthy, I think there's opportunities there. There's going to be 2 or 3 games that maybe 1 or 2 games they lose, they got no business losing. There's going to be 1 or 2 they win, they have no business winning. And so it's really about, like you said, it's about Justin Fields. Even if they did win 5, I don't care about record. If I come out of the season like, okay, we got something here, that we can build on. Now let's take this cap space and spend it on them. Then that's something that you can build on. Because like you said, with these quarterbacks, if you look in across the league, if you ain't got one of these young beasts out here, you don't have a shot. And even if you have one, you still might not win. You might pull a Leslie Frazier and lose like the Bills did last year. So it's a toss-up, man. So I just feel like Bears fans, they're irritable. But I'm glad that we was able to get I'm like, I know that there's more to it. And even I listened to your podcast where you was like, I'm glad you brought this up. So it's like, it was something like, it was kind of like mid-conversation.
So that's the, it's a thought that I have generally, not about the Bears specifically. And you're right. And national people, we have to stay on top of a lot of things. So I am not in the nitty gritty of everything like you will be for the Bears. However, nothing that I said was terribly wrong. I think the cap thing could be misunderstood. Yeah. Yeah. But in the context of what I said, nothing that I said was wrong. Like, it made sense. But I think this is the problem is you want to come out and you're right about this. The goal for the Bears and Bears fans this year is to come out of this year having made a decision or have a strong feeling about if Justin Fields is the guy or not. And then you can make a plan going forward. Definitely. My point is, look down at Miami. They don't know if Tua's the guy or not because they kind of mismanaged. He had no offensive line. He had the right opportunities. He had the right chance. They still trying to figure out if Tua is the guy. Yeah. Like, you can look around. There's lots of organizations that did this. Your own organization did it with Trubisky.
We did it.
Look, and so I'm standing here, and yes, I don't read Bears Twitter every day, but I don't got to for this, and that's all I want y'all to know is like, I may not be a Bears fan, but you ain't got to be mad at me for telling you the shit you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe it bothered you to say that Justin Fields should demand a trade. That's fine. You can be upset at that, but you can't disagree with all the reasons why I said he should demand a trade. Imagine if you was Justin Fields Bear fan. You got drafted to NFL, and then you watch this organization set you up to not succeed. And then people talking about you like you a bust in 5 years. And you're like, but did you remember 10 years from now, we're not going to remember the situation that was around him. We're going to look at his numbers and say, he sure was a bad 100%. Quarterback. So that's 100%. All.
And just even like, and that's just like the NFL stuff. People doubting Mahomes this year. And this is Patrick Mahomes. So it's like, I get that. And also stuff that, the truth hits deep. Like, I was mad as hell when Aaron Rodgers said he owned the Bears. But is he lying? No. Like, I was mad for like 3 hours. And I sat and thought about it. Like, think of every bad sports moment you've had. 95% of them involve Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb. And like, I couldn't get mad at it, man. So
he was right. You just didn't want to hear.
I just didn't want to hear.
And I'm sorry to tell y'all the truth. Y'all can talk about this between yourselves. I didn't want to come in and tell you that your outfit was whack, but maybe one of your friends can tell you that your shoes don't match.
Oh man, but it was glad to have you on here, man. I know you got to get out of here, man. Tell everybody they can get in tune with your podcast and
Nah, please. Well, the very first episode, the Domonique Foxworth show, is the one that prompted all this conversation. So please listen to that. If you like it, subscribe and hang around, and or just reach out to me and tell me I'm dumb. If you want to, I'll be sure to block your monkey ass.
Right. Thanks, man. Thanks for joining us. Once again, shout out to Domonique Foxworth for joining us, man. That's all I got for y'all today. To follow me on Twitter at BarbChairScott. We will have our recap podcast on Sunday, live from Soldier Field, where we break it down. Hopefully, a Bears win and getting ready for a victory Monday. And of course, our recap podcast will always be streamed live on Barber's Chair Network, on our Twitter, on me and my brother's Twitters, on the 79th and Halas Twitter, and of course, the Barber's Chair Network YouTube. And if you missed the stream, you can just go back and play the video. The audio will be up on all our feeds by the end of the night, and you will be all good to go, man. So hopefully we'll be getting ready for a Bears win this Sunday. So, follow me on Twitter at BarbChairScott. Follow 79th and Halas, 79th AND Halas. Also, you can subscribe to our Patreon. These podcasts right here will not be free starting next week. So you might want to subscribe. Patreon.com/Barbers Chair Network. You can do a $5 79th and Halas tier if you just want strictly 79th and Halas content, or if you want all our Barbers Chair Network content with 79th and Halas, with summer sessions, with cinema with the guys, with anything else we got coming up. You can subscribe to our $10 Barbers Chair All Access tier. You can look out for that. log into the bcnet.com. I got a new episode of I'm Not Gonna Hold You that is live. Go check that out. I preview a full NFL season preview. We will be dropping on Mondays and Thursdays live episodes during the NFL season. And the barbershop shop is coming real soon, hopefully by the end of the year. So y'all stay tuned for that one. And let's hope the Bears win. And we'll holler at y'all on Saturday night, man. We are on Sunday night, man. We are out.